there everyone, and welcome to the channel. My name's Kareth, and I'm so glad you're joining me today because I've got a really yummy recipe for you. This one is for cinnamon buns. This recipe is based on my yeast roll recipe that's already up on my channel. And I also had an older recipe for some cinnamon rolls that I used a potato bread mix with. This one is similar in the filling and the glaze that you put on top, but it is just a basic yeast roll recipe. Now it's an enriched dough, so it's kind of similar to a brioche. It's got the butter powder, the sour cream, some sugar, the eggs in it. Let me show you how to put together this mix that you can keep on your pantry shelf. All right, let me show you first how to make the dough. You'll get out a pint-sized jar, and this is gonna make about 6 cinnamon buns, or you could turn them into cinnamon rolls for sure. Put the yeast at the bottom of your jar, and then place the flour on top of that. This is a half recipe compared to my yeast roll recipe, so it's just gonna make 6 cinnamon buns. All right, here's the enriched part of the dough. We've got butter powder, sour cream powder, milk powder, scrambled egg mix, some sugar, and just a little bit of salt. All right, so those ingredients combined with the flour and the yeast, that's gonna give you a fantastic enriched dough. It's gonna be really tender, really soft and yummy. All right, separately, you'll keep the ingredients for the filling. So that's just some sugar and some cinnamon. And that will fit in the top of your jar. And you can seal that up, put your lid on. All right, so that's all there is to the dough itself. Now, let me show you what I put in the glaze. That's a half-pint jar, a 1-cup jar. I'm using 3/4 of a cup of powdered sugar, and then you add a little bit of instant milk, some butter powder, and some vanilla powder. That's gonna give you a really good flavored glaze for the top of these cinnamon buns. And you can just store that glaze jar next to your dough mix. And if you try this recipe and you like this recipe and you think, you know what, I'd probably make cinnamon buns more often if I had the mix on hand, well then just make 3 or 4 sets of these and keep them on your shelf. Whenever you're ready to make your cinnamon buns, go ahead and get out a mixer. I'm using a stand mixer, my KitchenAid, because that is going to do the hard work for me of the kneading. I'm putting in just 1/2 cup of warm water. That was just tap water. And then I thought, oh, I'll just shake up my dough mix before I add it to the water. Y'all, I forgot there was a baggie in there with my filling. So yeah, don't do that. Just take out the baggie first, then you can give it a little shake and add it to your water. You're gonna need to mix that together, and then it needs to knead for probably 8 to 10 minutes. So you can do other things while your mixer is doing that. Of course, if you want to do this by hand, you can. Since it's an enriched dough, it's a little bit sticky, and that's just not my favorite thing to do, so I use my KitchenAid mixer here. You will need to scrape your bowl just 2 or 3 times during that kneading process, just to make sure all the ingredients are getting kneaded. All right, while that kneads, you can work on your filling. You're gonna need about 2 tablespoons of softened butter for that amount of cinnamon sugar. You could use as much filling as you want in these. This is just a guide. You could increase that amount if you want to. All right, after about 8 to 10 minutes of kneading, this is what your dough will look like. And it's pretty sticky, but that's normal. That's what you're looking for. That's just fine. So go ahead and flour your surface, and then you'll need to flour your hands, flour your rolling pin. Get that kind of to a point where it's got enough flour on the outside of it to where it's not sticking to your counter. And then you're just going to roll this out into a rectangle. Once you get enough flour on it, it should roll just fine. If it sticks to your counter a little bit, you can just lift it up and put some more flour underneath it, and it should be fine. It's a really easy dough to work with. And because this recipe only requires one rise, you're gonna have cinnamon buns in under 2 hours. So it's pretty cool. And most of that time is inactive. It's rising time and baking time. All right, once you've got your dough rolled out to about 10 by 15 or so, you'll want to cut it into 6 rectangles. Now this, I'm just showing you one way that you could make cinnamon buns, okay? You can just make these into cinnamon rolls. You could spread out that filling and then cut into strips, into 6 strips, and roll them up like a pinwheel and make a cinnamon roll. But this is an interesting method that I saw on YouTube. A baker cut 5 slits in each one of her rectangles, and she left a border all the way around. You don't cut from one end to the next. You leave a border all the way around, and you cut some slits. And what those slits do is allow for some expansion during the rise time. And then you roll it up. You roll these up kind of like you would roll up a Play-Doh snake or something like that. It's fun. And those slits allow for it to fan out when you put it into the cupcake tin. And those little strips almost look like petals of a flower or something. I just think it's beautiful. It's great that it allows for some rising. It just turns out so pretty. Once you have all of those little cinnamon buns rolled up, then you can get out a cupcake tin and go ahead and spray 6 of those cups with some sort of a cooking spray. And then you just take the ends there and they become the bottom, and you place your cinnamon buns in the cupcake tin, and it kind of fans out. And it looks just really pretty. You'll cover it and then put it in a warm place to rise. I put it in my oven with the light on and the oven was off. Give it about an hour. And then after about an hour, they should look like this. Aren't those lovely? I'm not much of a baker, y'all. I'm just experimenting here and having a really good time doing it. And previously, I would have skipped this step. I wouldn't have done an egg wash because it's fussy and it takes an egg. But with Thrive Life scrambled egg mix, I use like 1 teaspoon of mix and a few teaspoons of water. And this is the result you get. I mean, just look at how gorgeous that is. The browning is so beautiful. So I love having the scrambled egg mix on hand for things like this because it really does turn out so pretty. They should come right out of the muffin tin without any trouble. If you sprayed your tin, they should come right out. They should pop right out. You can put them on a platter and then you can put the glaze on there. All I did was add 1.5 tablespoons of water to that little jar, and it made that glaze. You can add as much or as little of the glaze to the top of these cinnamon buns as you like, but I like a lot of glaze. And this is what they look like when they're finished. And bonus, your house will smell like a bakery. It's fabulous. I love seeing the cinnamon peek out through those little slits. But if you don't want to make these into cinnamon buns and you prefer a cinnamon roll, then it's the same recipe. You roll out the dough, put on the filling, cut it into 6 strips and roll it up like pinwheels. Just put it in a cake pan and let it rise, and then you can bake it just like these. My husband and I really like to add a little bit of maple flavoring to the glaze and then fry up some bacon and have a maple bacon cinnamon bun. So yeah, there's an idea for you. But it's just a lovely roll. So tender. Just look at that yeast bread. And the swirls of cinnamon in there and the little light glaze on the top. It is so delicious. I highly recommend these. My kids love them. My husband loves them. They're a little bit of work. They take a little bit of time, but wow, are they ever worth it. All right, guys, I will leave the full recipe as well as my shopping links in the description box below. I'll include my website where you can pick up a copy of my ebook, my cookbook. And if you prefer a print version, it is now available on Amazon, and I'll link that below. I recently had someone ask me, Kareth, we want to support you. We love what you're doing. We love your channel, but we're buying our food through someone else, a different consultant. But what can we do to support you? And wow, I really appreciate that question. Anybody can support me by watching my videos. That really helps. And liking and commenting, all those things help my channel to grow. Also, purchasing my cookbook. I mean, that directly supports me. And then I am an Amazon associate, so if you click on my Amazon links below and you buy anything from Amazon really, then I get a small commission on that. So all those things help, and I do appreciate all of your support. All right, guys, God bless you. You'll have a wonderful day. And until next time, y'all take care and keep thriving.